So we're back with a brand new episode of Walkin' and Talkin' with Tim, and my guest today is Steve Graham, who is the president and CEO of Graham Communications. And look, you brought the sun.
Yeah.
The sun just popped out.
It's not warm, but the sun's out.
It's a little cold,
A little chilly.
but the sun is out. So let's start right off by you telling everybody what Graham Communications does and kind of how you got started.
Sure. We are a full-service marketing firm. We specialize in video production, social media marketing, and event planning. Worked for a bunch of ad agencies, and in about 2003, that little voice inside me said, do this on your own. So, took the big leap of faith way back then, and here we are today.
Well, everybody knows you know? Everybody knows Steve Graham. So the other thing is well, let's before we get into the whole, I want to talk about video travel, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But let's talk about your family. So you're married, Patty.
That's correct.
You've got a son and a daughter, Steve and Megan.
Correct.
You've got 2 grandkids.
Cora and Mickey.
Look at you, 2 grandkids. And from there, let's talk about, like you talked about, traveling and video. And so I want to do that tie-in, like we talked a little bit about that, you know, how the traveling and doing videos while you travel ties into your life, and how that kind of really, you know, excites you, especially when you said about, especially when you talked about when you came back from Ireland and you showed the family the video.
Yes. So we took a big family trip, about 18 of us. We went over to Ireland. We visited some relatives over there. We did the whole tour, the castles, the cliffs of Moher. It was just a blast. So when I came back, I had shot all kinds of just travel footage, you know, just all kinds of stuff. And then I took a couple of weeks and just went through everything. And I put a movie together. Instead of just, you know, let's just show the films, I threw all kinds of fun effects in there. I threw music in there. I threw clips from other movies in
Bloopers.
there. Just bloopers, just a blast. And then we had, we pulled the whole family together. We had a movie night with popcorn, and we played this thing up on the TV, and just watching the reactions of everybody, just like they were enjoying the trip all over again. Even the people that didn't get to go on the trip watched it and just loved it, and that just clicked something inside me that said, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah, it's like when you were a kid and they used to put the, what was it, 8mm or whatever?
That's right.
And the screen and everything. Right. And you had that feeling like, you know, like, I can't wait to see this.
This is great.
You only get to do this every once in a while, right?
That's right. So it's storytelling. So we've morphed this company into storytelling. That's what we love to do. We love to sit down with CEOs and business owners, and instead of just doing the regular, what do you do and what's the service you provide, which we usually start with something like, how did you get into this business? Or what did you do to start, like what made you become an accountant, or what made you become, and they're usually fascinating stories.
Right.
You know, it's somebody, well, I was doing this and I really wasn't happy, and I thought, what the heck, let's do this. And that's the story.
Well, what about Boston?
So Boston, we did a lot for years. I worked for my brother-in-law, Dr. Kevin Brady, and we built this whole online curriculum. So I traveled all up and down the East Coast and filmed historical sites all over the place. And just having this professional camera gave me access to things that normally you don't have. But like, for example, the Old North Church in Boston with Paul Revere. I got an opportunity to climb up the tower and stand exactly where Paul Revere had the lanterns.
That's insane.
That was crazy. Walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama with a group of teachers. Just, you know, interviewed veterans. I had this great story of a gentleman. He was at Normandy on D-Day.
Jeez.
And he was driving one of these called LCL boats. They're the boats where the doors open and everybody jumps out. And he was just, I mean, the stories he had was just unbelievable. But he was, you know, he was now in his 90s, and he was just traveling to the little VFW halls to tell his little story, and he had his little pictures and stuff. And I got an opportunity, I found him, he lived down near Lakehurst, and went to his house and did an interview with him. He got to tell his story. We put this video up on a website that was called TeacherTube, which is basically YouTube for teachers.
That's cool.
And then Navy TV got a hold of it, and they ended up with 33 million views.
Wow.
So from him telling his little story at local
Well, I mean,
halls to now the whole world got to see his story. So
I
it
think
was
that's
really cool.
powerful though. When it
Yeah.
comes from that it's kind of coming from a small place, right?
Yes.
But it's super powerful because these people are the reason we're here. We
That's
live
right.
the lives we do, right?
That's right.
And you know, the more we see that, the more gratitude we have for stuff like that. So
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you also talked about, you know, two things. One was how you weathered the pandemic, and you also talked about some of the storms that have rolled through that you have covered.
Yes. So very quickly, Hurricane Sandy came in, just devastated the coast, especially like Seaside Heights. So I had an opportunity to drive up there just less than a week after the storm hit, and I was taken by the local sheriff on a foot tour because it was literally so bad up there you couldn't drive.
Right.
So we literally walked it, and it's just one of those things. The houses were upside down in the middle of the street. You could see them out in the bay. Boats were sticking out of the top parts and just to film this thing. I mean, the biggest challenge was not saying "wow" out loud
Right.
the whole time you're filming. You got to stay quiet.
Yeah.
But
And just being torn up yourself.
just mind-boggling. And so when this tornado recently blew through, in fact, this area that we're walking, I mean, it was bad. Don't get me wrong, especially Mullica Hill. But I kind of knew what was coming when we jumped. My son and I jumped in the car, threw a couple of chainsaws in there, and just said, "Let's see who we can help." But
Right.
your mind has a hard time processing what you're seeing. You know, it almost tells you this is a movie set. This is not real, because
Yeah.
there's no way a house goes upside down and lays in the middle of the street.
Nope. Only in the
But-
Wizard of Oz.
Only in the Wizard of Oz. But so yeah, so a good video camera gets you in places
You may never
where
have
you may
been.
never have been allowed to get into.
Yes. I'm being critiqued right now, as you know, with my video skills
Yeah.
here.
Oh, so just quickly, you know, so all the stats say that most people only watch video for about a minute, then they start to bail off. So
We're
I'm guessing.
about 7 actually.
So we could say whatever we want right now because no one's watching, which is cool. But so here's a little thing for
We're
our
gonna get a cup
viewers.
of coffee.
Yeah, let's do it. So our viewers out there, if you're still listening, just type the word mistletoe in the comments. Don't put anything, no explanation, just type the word mistletoe. And this will be Tim's fun way of tracking who's still listening at this
Exactly.
point.
Exactly. And if you spell it right, you know, maybe
That's extra credit.
exactly right. And the first 3 people to type mistletoe, I'll send you a T-shirt.
Look at that.
A Walkin Talkin with Tim T-shirt. Anyway,
Awesome.
so so you did talk a little bit also about the pandemic, right?
Yes.
And that kind of ties into your involvement with Boys and Girls Club, with
United Way.
United Way, and other organizations that you help all the time because you're
Yeah.
a big helper in our community.
Well, thank you. So yeah, this was such a strange time, as everyone knows, but I was in a meeting with Mike Gower and his crew for the United Way. And this was a group that was used to doing fundraisers and walkathons and, you know, everything, but you had to be there in person.
You couldn't.
And all of a sudden, they were not allowed to do anything. I mean, we're talking to the point where you couldn't have more than 5 people in a room. So we kind of had this little meeting at his table, and we were just sitting there brainstorming, like, what are we going to do? They had like 5 events lined up, and everything was canceled. So we just started to brainstorm, and I said, hey, I bet you there's a ton of Jersey Shore bands that all their gigs are canceled. So they're all sitting home, and they're probably bored to tears. Why don't we try to reach out and get 4 or 5 of these, you know, they'll record a nice little video, we'll credit the United Way, and we'll see what happens. So we started doing emails and letters. And I was hoping for 5 or 6. We got 31 bands
Yeah.
that said love to do it, charged us nothing for the next month or so. I felt like a talent scout because I was getting all these calls at the office. You know, it was hilarious. You know, this band, and we got some really good Jersey
I know.
bands too.
I remember.
So then we put a little telethon together on Facebook. In
Yep.
fact, you helped out, you and Ryan. We put
MC.
we put some fake tuxedos on
Yes,
you
we
guys,
did.
right? And next thing you know, we were cracked. So it's just thinking out of the box. But I had to teach a lot of companies now how to do virtual stuff.
Well, I think that's your particular talent. I think that's why a lot of people come to you because you're a guy that does think outside the box and you come up with some pretty creative ideas that other people generally don't think of. And, you know, that's not normal.
Yes.
You know? So I think that's what makes you particularly, I can't even say it, unique
Thank
It's
you.
getting cold, so my
is
mouth's
getting
starting
cold.
to draw up.
It
So it's, but that's what makes you so unique, you know. And that's what a lot of people talk about when they talk about Steve Graham. He's unique. He's fun. He's funny. You know, you're a character, man.
Thank
You're a guy that there's always a joke.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that.
See, and there it is. I would have taken that, by the way. So, so you are going to be married this coming October. Let's see if I got this right, because you got married in '87, and if I did the math right, 36 years.
Yeah.
Way to go, Patty. Way to keep him in line.
It's like it happened yesterday. You know?
So, what are you going to do? Anything special, man? What do you got planned?
We're looking at going to Maine. We want to do a nice little run up there. We want to check out the coast. We did Arizona a couple years ago and loved it out there. So, but I think Maine's our big target this fall. We want to do a fall trip every year for the anniversary.
Awesome. So so I ask everybody this question on almost every interview, and from a guy like you you're born and bred around here. You came from Philly, you grew up in Woodbury Heights, you went to St. Margaret's, you went to Gateway, which is also where I went to high school. So what advice do you have for the young up and comers that are, no matter what, I mean, whether they're getting jobs or trying to pick a college, whatever it is they want to do, or maybe they're not going to go to college, maybe they just want to take up a trade. And what's your advice to these young people?
So my biggest piece of advice would be to meet people face to face, not rely on, as much as we live in this world of technology and people can say, hey, I have 5,000 friends, I have these followers, I have these likes. What really counts is the people that you meet face to face, you meet a couple times, you become friends with. That's how you build a business. Business is relationships. It's not likes and follows
100%.
and clicks. It's relationships. So even if you're starting out, you're looking for a job, I mean, these business chambers, you don't have to be employed to be in a business chamber.
Right.
You can join a chamber and go to their events. And we know a couple of people that have pretty much took that path where they came in as high school graduates and started handing out business cards. And next thing you know, they had pretty nice jobs. So meet people. Oh, look, it's lunchtime. You can go play dodgeball.
That's a really great point that, you know, if you're in college or even if you're in high school and you want to come to like a chamber event or something like that, to come introduce yourself to local business owners. I mean, what a great place to come, like you said, to come meet people that you may have a job.
Yes.
That's the second you get out of school, or maybe even right at that second.
Yeah, and business owners notice that. They're
do.
always looking for people that are assertive, that are not, you know, they're not going to go cower in a corner. I mean, there are those jobs where you don't need to interact every day and you do need to be locked down to a computer, but if you can show that personality where you can look somebody in the eye and shake their hand, that's going to go a long way.
Exactly right. So if people want to get a hold of Steve Graham and or Graham Communications or both, how do they do that?
I have a pretty thorough LinkedIn page. Look me up on LinkedIn. I do have a website that needs to be updated because I'm like the cobbler's kids who don't have shoes. I'm so busy doing everybody else's shoes. But, you know, the best way is the phone number, 856-430-8082. Or show up at these networking events and I will be there.
There you go. Well, thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on. And everybody out there, keep on walking, keep on moving.
That's right.
Follow me on Instagram, and we will see you next time on Walkin' and Talkin' with Tim.